Hello,
Assalamu alaikum.
welcome back to Dastan Geeky.
Welcome. I am the master.
I am the doctor. What have you been up to, master?
Well, master stuff being the master of this and the master of that and the master of the universe and stuff like that.
Speaking of the master of the universe, what is today's topic of discussion, among other things?
ये थिंक ये तुक्का था मैंने मास्टर ऑफ द यूनिवर्स जोक लगाया मैंने मास्टर ऑफ द यूनिवर्स का जोक ऐसे लगाया बिकॉज आई हैव थॉट ऑफ टुडेज टॉपिक
Yes, what is that?
तलवार
The sword.
swords
The swords. Power swords.
power swords
Heroic swords.
a big staple of fantasy and even other stuff कहते हैं is sword. I mean,
Yeah.
the knight with the sword, the hero with the sword, the barbarian with the sword, the king with the sword. Sword is a very important thing, and it's not just a weapon. In a lot of fiction, the sword becomes a character on its own.
True. And you need that character to pass that ultimate test that has been thrust upon you as a young.
Exactly. It's the
Fighter.
talisman that will often be given to you by the wise man.
It's a story trope that writers use to move the story forward and create
Exactly.
action.
So we have the old wizard called Merlin,
Or we have Gandalf,
or we have the sorceress,
or we have
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And they all give the hero what?
A weapon of great power which is to be used responsibly.
And now that you mention actually something else, so it's and this sword which is given to our main hero, our main character,
Protagonist.
the sword is not just a magical sword. It somehow also talks about the hero's identity, lineage, and legacy, which he himself might not even remember. For example, King Arthur. Arthur, young boy Arthur, he does not know he is the son of Uther Pendragon, but Merlin said, "Go get that sword from the stone, young boy." And that young boy pulls out the sword and he finds out that he is supposed to have inherited that exact sword anyways. That sword of power, Excalibur, makes him a king because he is the rightful king anyways.
In some stories, he has to go and get it from the Lady of the Lake.
Oh, yes. Well, that's because they're... all right, look, we gotta simplify things in movies, but in actuality what happens is the sword and the stone is a separate sword from the sword in the lake.
Yeah, so the sword in the lake is the Excalibur.
The sword in the lake
sword in
is
the stone is
Excalibur.
just some sword.
Yes. That sword is the sword which is like an insignia or the badge which tells him he is the once and true future king of all England. Excalibur, on the other hand, is
You
the sword
see, folks, I'm gonna intervene over here and tell you that you can sometimes correct your master as well if you just are confident enough to point stuff out. Very well.
What?
Like I corrected you, like even the sword and the
Oh.
deity has Excalibur.
Yeah,
the sword and the stone
so
is
the
just a
lady
sword.
gives it's another thing. So Merlin gives him the sword and the stone, but it's the lady in the lake that gives him Excalibur. It's always going to be someone else who gives you the sword. Prince Adam, and we'll tell you who he is if you don't know. Prince Adam is given the sword by the sorceress.
But this isn't Prince Adam's legacy, is it? His father was not He-Man, but he apparently
Oh, yeah,
was.
that's true. Randor was not. Oh, so what made them choose Adam?
Because he was pure of heart and he was a boy, and the cartoon was supposed to be aimed at boys
Is
who
that
were
also,
normal.
also in the reboot cartoon? Is that what
In
it
the
was?
reboot
No?
cartoon as well, yeah.
Well, if anybody knows otherwise, please let us know. I'm very curious.
We always look forward
Alright,
to people
now let's look at another
correcting
old
us.
man
Yeah.
who gives another person a sword. The sword of Thundera.
Yeah, that's a legacy
It's
sword.
given to a young Prince Lionel who
Yes.
is the rightful heir to that sword.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another sword, which is given by an old man to a young boy because that sword did used to belong to, is a part of his legacy and who he is, the entity, which is the lightsaber.
Yeah, Luke Skywalker given his father's sword.
So swords of power, my friend.
Any other such instances in stories and movies in which a sword has been passed on to?
Well, yeah. Yes, now that you think about it, there are other examples like Adam, in which it's not necessarily something that is because of his lineage,
Hmm.
but it does then give him this new role uh, in the sword and with the
Was the
sword and the phoenix.
protector of the universe?
No, wait a minute. I'm trying to think about um, the Conan novel in which Conan becomes king.
No, I do
The
not
sword,
know.
the phoenix sword, or was that was there a phoenix sword in Harry Potter?
You, I'll look it up. You carry on.
Well, I don't know much about
Yeah,
Harry Potter,
it's
but
something that you might know about more than I. The Vorpal sword.
oh yeah, if you're talking okay, yeah, if you're talking about magical swords, then let's talk about one that's actually it's very iconic in fantasy gaming. A lot of you who might know D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, play Dungeons and Dragons, or some even might have appeared in video games. You might have heard of the Vorpal sword, a sword that just goes ahead and decapitates whoever you wield it against. You know where that comes from, right?
Go ahead, enlighten us.
Oh, I'll use an example that a lot of you might be familiar with because they just made a movie on it. Did you watch the sequel to Alice in Wonderland? No, it
No,
wasn't
I
a sequel,
haven't.
was it? The one with Johnny Depp. There's one or two of them.
There's two of them, but yeah, the Jabberwocky.
Jabberwocky one comes in the first one or second one?
The first one.
Okay, the Jabberwocky. The Vorpal sword actually comes in the Jabberwocky
Yeah.
poem.
Yep.
And that's so this sword, this iconic sword which you find in every edition of Dungeons and Dragons. That's where it's coming from. What else? What's the sword that the broken sword that
Lord of the Rings.
that Aragorn has to have
Andruel, I think. It's called Andruel.
something like that. Andruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the sword that was used against uh,
Sauron.
Sauron.
And that's also a legacy sword.
Yep.
Yeah, there. If you just sit down and talk about it, Elric of Melnibone's sword, the storm,
Well,
thunder.
okay. Well, let's talk about the powers of the swords then, right? Okay. So, Elric, for those who don't know, let's give a little annotation to all
Sure.
these things in case somebody doesn't know. Elric is a fantasy character created by an author known as Michael Moorcock. Am I
Yeah.
pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah.
So, Elric is this albino sorcerer, fighter, deposed king or prince.
Sickly in nature, but
So he has a sword
powerful
called the
nonetheless.
Stormbringer. What the Stormbringer does is it thirsts for souls.
It's a soul stealer.
It's a soul stealer sword, and whatever person that sword kills, its soul is trapped forever in the sword.
And that is how Elric is actually gains power because
Yes.
he's got this disease,
Oh, it's a
which is
vampire
wasting
sword,
disease. Yeah, it's a
in a way.
vampire sword.
So now, what's interesting is a lot of you might be familiar with the same concept from other places. Recently, you might have seen it in a movie.
Heroes, Suicide Squad.
Katana sword.
Soul
Was there an aspect that was in the movie?
It was a soul stealer, yeah.
In the movie as well, right?
Yeah.
In the comics as well. And yes, whoever is killed by the sword of Katana, I don't know what a sword was called, its soul is trapped in
The
the sword.
Sunblade. I think it's called the Sunblade.
Is it?
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about the Sunblade, Katana Sunblade? I wonder why it's called the Sunblade when it's not doing anything.
Is it there? Is it the Sunblade?
So the thing about the Katana sword is this: the difference between Stormbringer and Katana sword is Katana sword. Whoever Katana sword kills, he then can commune with the spirits trapped in the sword. And this is not the first sword like so in a comic book universe. In the Marvel universe, there's a character known as the Black Knight. He has the ebony blade, which does exactly the same. And Black Knight's origins are Arthurian, by the way. So you have that.
Okay.
The Sword of Omens in Thundercats. The Sword of Omens abilities are numerous, right? You can be a peeping Tom through it. You can fire lasers from it. I mean, you can do pretty much what the writer needs you to do at that point. What do you like more, the Sword of Grayskull or the Sword of Thundera?
I think I personally like the Grayskull, the sword, much better because of its epic history. That it's one part of a complete weapon. It's one half, and the other half is with Skeletor.
Oh no, but okay. I think you're a bigger fan of He-Man than I am. Tell me this: was that only in the toy series that it was these two separate halves and was a cool concept, or was
It-
that also in the cartoons?
It was also in the cartoon, which is why Skeletor
I
is
never
hellbent.
recalled seeing Skeletor having the other half of the sword of Grayskull in the
They
cartoons.
they probably introduced that aspect in the new cartoon, which
Oh,
was
actually, it was in the new cartoon.
and the new cartoon was
Alright.
100 times better than the old one.
Well, I didn't really get a chance to watch the new one, but the old one it didn't have it. But yes, I did have Skeletor as a toy. I did have He-Man as a toy, and their swords, although different colors,
Yeah.
did actually join together and create one sword. That was pretty cool. So,
Yeah. So the thing with the Lino sword is, I mean, Lino sword is cool as well because of its ability to expand. I mean, when we were kids, we used to make fun of that everybody has Lino sword. At least every boy who would go into the side and be like, oh,
actually, another ability was Lion's sword, which is really cool.
it used to return to his hand. I don't think He-Man's sword does that.
The He-Man sword. Actually, come to think of it, He-Man's sword pretty much did nothing.
He-Man's sword just shot out energy.
No, well, it did. Well, look, He-Man's sword is the one that made Prince Adam. He needed the sword as without
Yeah,
the sword he
without
can't
the sword,
transform into He-Man. So
No.
that's pretty much it. It's just like a thing that will help him transform.
But it also
But-
would shoot energy weapons out.
It did.
And
No,
once
it
combined,
used to turn that cat into the tiger. That's pretty much
no,
it.
no. Even besides that, it used to do it. And if combined, it was the most powerful weapon
Well,
in
yeah,
the
the
universe.
combined thing. The other thing that was cool about the Lino sword, though, is that it had a built-in bat signal.
It did have a built-in back signal, which was pretty cool as well.
Was
And he used to hurt his foes with that as well.
I think it was the
sometimes.
only weapon that could harm Mum-Ra, the ever-living.
Yeah, or was it his reflection that used to harm him?
Oh yeah, that too.
He just, it used to make him realize that he's ugly and undead. So yeah, those are two power swords. But what about a lightsaber?
Lightsaber?
What color would you want your lightsaber to be, and what style would you want your lightsaber to be?
Now this is you. I mean, I'm not a very big Star Wars fan, so.
No, but I mean, I'm sure there is still a
The-
boy
the
inside of you
on-
which would.
Well, the only thing I remember is this: if it's red, it's a Sith lightsaber. But on the other side there was also green and blue, and so I don't know what those colors were, man.
So basically, if you have a green lightsaber,
Uh-huh.
that means that you're you're a master of the Force.
Alright.
and that
like
signifies-
Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, someone senior.
No,
Green.
no,
No.
green. Yoda had a green lightsaber. So
Alright.
that signified that his grasp over the Force is really strong. Same with Luke. When he creates his own lightsaber, he has a green lightsaber.
No, but there were blue lightsabers as well.
Blue lightsaber was Anakin's. Blue lightsaber means that your grasp with the lightsaber is more than your grasp on the Force. So you're a better sword fighter than a better Force user. But then
purple lightsaber.
purple lightsaber was there was only one lightsaber, which was Mace Windu, which he was like the ultimate lightsaber master.
The last one was purple.
That was lightsaber. So basically, they signify.
Yellow.
Yellow was the intellectual side of the Force. You
By
have
the
to
way, I
be-
just threw that in
No,
thinking
there is a
you'd go
yellow.
okay.
There is a yellow.
There is a yellow.
There's yellow, there's green, there's blue.
Okay, so
There's-
so why do all the good guys have all these colors and the bad guys are just stuck with red?
Because the bad guy's like, fuck color, man. Fuck rainbows.
Why has there never been a black lightsaber? You know,
There
black
have been. There have
There
been
have
black
been?
lightsaber, yes.
Bad guys use them.
Bad guys use them.
What did that signify?
Nothing. It just looks cool.
Silver.
No silver.
Orange.
No orange either. So tell me, what color would your lightsaber be, and what would your lightsaber
Orange.
look like, and what would it look like?
Oh.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'll tell you what it look like, man. It will look like an axe. So it won't be a sword anymore. It'll energy axe, the type Optimus Prime had in the cartoon.
Ah,
Dun, dun.
yes.
Because of his energy, it can take like any shape it wants,
True,
right?
true, you can. That is cool. What do you think of the new lightsaber?
The one that
The one with the hilt,
yeah, the Kyle Ren one.
the Kyle Rayner,
I don't know, man.
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren, no, whatever, man. That's like, excuse me. I mean, it's a cool sword to look at, but I'd be scared to actually wield it. I mean, how many times will you stab yourself with it, man?
You have to be a master of the lightsaber to even have a lightsaber.
But the first time I saw Darth Maul using a lightsaber, right? I mean, that was my first encounter with any lightsaber other than just it being normal. So like, whoa, double-sided lightsaber. That was really cool.
That was cool.
And I really didn't like the new one, the Reno. What's his name? Kylo Ren one, because I was like, look, that's the coolest thing you can do. You have a double lightsaber, and that's just like, oh, but what can we do other than a double light? So I just put these hilts as well. I don't know. So that was kind of boring.
Well, it did make sense. He used it in the movie, and
That's fine. I mean, I'm just saying, you've already done something cool, which is you have a double lightsaber. Everything else is just, okay, let's just.
In the Knights of the Old Republic game, and then even in the comic books and the cartoon series, Rebels and whatnot, they came up with a short lightsaber and a long lightsaber.
Oh, for two-hand fighting. Have they ever come up with a double, as in not double blade from different ends, but coming out from the same emitter, like two swords running parallel to each other?
No, I don't see the point of it.
Because we've seen that with blades, like normal swords.
Yeah,
so
but if you do something like this with a lightsaber, your opponent can aim to hit you in between those two blades.
Yeah,
and
but
make
but
it all
these,
the way
these,
down.
these lightsabers are not really there for practical purpose. They're supposed to aesthetically look cool.
They are there for practical purpose.
Well, the hilt is not practical at all, man. Come on.
The hilt might not be practical, but the blade itself can cut through anything.
Has there ever been dagger sabers?
Not that I know of.
Throwing daggers.
That would be really
Well, actually,
expensive.
they don't need that, because they show that they can pretty much very easily throw lightsabers with complete skill and revolves, and it comes back in your hand as well.
Yeah. So they don't need that.
All right.
So yeah, then moving on. So any other legendary weapon? What about Saber Rider's cutlass? Was that energy as well, or was that just a normal sword?
I recall it being just a normal sword.
Was it a normal sword?
Yes.
Interesting. What about vibro blades? I don't know anything about. What about Valyrian blade? The blade made out of dragon glass that can kill the White Walkers. See.
Yeah, there you go.
There are so many blades, so different.
What
about Hazrat Ali's blade?
Zulfikar.
Was it called Zulfikar?
Yes.
What about Hatim Tai's blade?
What was that one called?
I don't know what it was called, but it had the kalma written on it, and whenever it used to touch an East India Company guy, he would burn to death.
Are you serious?
No.
Well, flaming swords. I mean, flaming swords are a big part of.
Has there never ever been a sword in particular in Hindu history, Hindu mythology?
Well, must be. I mean, swords are an iconic thing. It's there everywhere.
There is a bow and arrow in there.
Oh yeah, but we'll do bow and arrow some other day.
Okay.
Well, swords, but don't know much about a mythological context. But yes, historically they had those flexible swords, which I always thought was very cool.
Well, you see, swords have had a really huge, major part to play in the history of this world, and it started off.
And the history of this world's fiction.
Yeah, so it started off with people having swords which were just long, blunt, and heavy, and just by striking the other guy with them, used to not perforate the skin but break bones and everything, and then stabbing would obviously kill the person. In answer to which, the Japanese, they came up with the thin blades which were really sharp, which were really sharp. So when they went against the Gora people were at a
yeah, and the Gora people burn, kill them. Then we're joking.
No,
we're not. No. We're joking.
They were at a disadvantage, and then came the Romans, who made short swords. They were easy
for close quarters.
Which put the long bastard swords into, a disadvantage. So yeah, the swords, as humans, as societies, have evolved, and
as they have in fiction.
Every other sword.
I mean, what's interesting with the swords is this, and that's where this other genre comes in.
The Highlander's sword.
The Highlander swords.
Well,
those were all historical swords.
Yeah.
But with fiction, the thing with swords is this, and we're talking about evolution. What's interesting is how, look, gunpowder comes into the equation, and swords pretty much become useless. They have no place in war, right? And But what happens is every now and then the sword has this tendency to stay in fiction because you will always find blades and swords even in science fiction, even like in the 24th century.
Yeah.
There will be a need to have a blade. There's something about carrying a blade
Yeah,
which works for, like, okay, a blade means you're a warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, look, even if you look at Star Wars, right, you have lightsabers in an era in which you have blasters,
Yeah.
right, yet you have lightsabers. And then and you have cartoon. We've already mentioned we have cartoons like Thundercats and He-Man. They're going around with swords, but it's not really fantasy. It's not medieval fantasy, right? Those are spacefaring races. You have spaceships and tanks and such. Yet people are carrying swords.
Well, the thing is that young boys, they have this. It's just an evolution or whatever you call it, but there's this strange fascination with swords, and all of these products that we've mentioned are always targeted towards young adult audiences. Star Wars was not supposed to be seen by adults. It was supposed to be a movie for kids, and which was why they have swords in there. Cartoons are there for
Well,
kids.
Star Wars was just one big merchandising vehicle, anyways.
Yeah, and then it just took the world by storm.
But
That's like a
I'd rather
different
my
thing.
kid have plastic swords than guns. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
since it's not going to
yeah.
be
So it's more to do with the legacy of the item than
True,
the
true.
psyche of
And as we discussed,
the practical
in a lot of
use of it.
fiction, the sword serves as some kind of an artifact that serves as a legacy or connection to one's lineage or a power, or seat of power, or what one is. Very interesting. Flaming swords. As far as
Saint Michael's sword. I mean,
There you
the
go.
most historic.
so
the
swords. I mean,
Angel Michaels.
the prophecy had this. I don't know if it's from the Bible or maybe it is, but the prophecy movie had this very cool line which says, "Even now in heaven there are angels carrying savage weapons," and and those are flaming swords.
Yeah. So swords, it was there before us. It will remain after us, and this will be a topic of conversation. It was a topic of conversation in many taverns. It is a topic of many conversation in coffee cafes, and it will be a topic of conversations
In
in
many
oxygen
podcasts.
bars, in space. So we will keep you updated on swords. We will do a future episode on
Yeah.
weapons, not necessarily swords, like any kind of weapon. And take care till then.
Bye bye.